Islam, praise Allah, honest, just, holy, divine prophet, Prophet Noble Ali. I would definitely go into the beginning of Christianity. I'm going to talk about the ancient limits of the law of amity, right? That started with the beginning of Christianity. So you may want to go into the chapter at the beginning of Christianity, Islam.
And I must say, I am glad to see us all here on the call. I, for one, had worked the shift last night, and then I worked the shift this morning, and came home went straight to the house, to the bed, and when I arose, I dialed in, and here we go. And everybody's on the call, and I was just on time to hear Brother Arnell Bay say, what's the teaching said. Opening up my Holy Quran, Moorish Movement, Temple of America's mind is prepared by no prophet true Ali, to the chapter on the beginning of Christianity. Okay. Beginning of Christianity, chapter XLVI, 46. Chapter 46. The beginning of Christianity. Okay, in full, Islam. The foundation of Christianity began in Rome. The Roman nations founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth, for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke and law. Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites and the inhabitants of Africa, Islam, seeking to redeem his people in those days from the pressure of the pagan nations of Europe. Rome crucified him according to their law. Then Europe had peace for a long time until Muhammad first came upon the scene and fulfilled the works of Jesus of Nazareth. The holy teaching of Jesus was to the common people, to redeem them from under the great pressure of the hands of the unjust, that the rulers and the rich would not oppress the poor, also that the lion and the lamb may lay down together and neither would be harmed when morning came. When teachers were not accepted by the rulers, neither by the rich, because they loved the principles of the These teachings were not accepted by the rulers, neither by the rich, because they loved the principles of the Ten Commandments. Through the Ten Commandments, the rulers and the rich live, while the poor suffer and die. The lamb is the poor people. The lion is the rulers and the rich. And through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all men are one and equal to their own destiny. And to worship Islam. The lamb is the poor people, and the lion is the rulers and the rich. And through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all men are one and equal to seek their own destiny and to worship under their own vine and fig tree, after the principles of the holy and divine laws of their forefathers. All nations of the earth in these modern days are seeking peace. But there is but one true and divine way that peace may be obtained these days, and it is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice being taught universally to all nations and all lands. Islam. So in retrospect, reading this chapter, following Articles of Association, quotation, extending beyond ancient limits, Islam. We'll hear first the ancient word pops up. Jesus himself is of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites and the inhabitants of Africa. So simply to me, this gave them this Article of Association, by the way I described, you're not subject to the king, not subject to the king of emperor of Morocco. You're not subject to the Constitution of the United States. Then you're not allowed to carry the land. A vagabond, not entitled to the rights of a freeman. So this was it. This Articles of Association was how they was able to put the law on the Moor if the Moor wasn't doing right by his ancestors. The Moor ain't doing right by his forefathers under his own vine and fig tree, then the Moor was about to become a Negro because they was able to extend beyond their ancient limits through this Articles of Association in America. And if you were subject to the king, subject to Morocco under your own vine and fig tree, or adhering to the Constitution Association's Articles of Association, then you was an undesirable or a vagabond or NBC or ABC, out of law. So with that, that's like I said, I'm just spiritual. No, me just being spiritual is not going to get it. I have to tie myself to the land. I have to show and prove that I'm under my own vine and fig tree. We have to show and prove that we are under our own vine and fig tree. But that's just on a personal perspective, how they're able to lock up a brother now. Though that's just a small point, because the molasses and the syrup and the paint and all the household supplies being taxed. I mean, just being looked at the way they are. Yeah, you have to be with the program, which is under your own vine and fig tree. People these days get a way out. The radio just fool them to the end of time. No one thinks they have to have a nationality. No one thinks they have to be under their own vine and fig tree. They all think, I don't know. They don't think Americanism. They don't think U.S.A. They don't think patriotism. They just a free world right now.
Islam.
Islam, millennial world. So is anyone else had a measure on that? Because that, I could pause just to look at it again, because that's how I feel. Jumped out right away is how this ancient limit. I'm taking the ancient limits to their authority over me. Beyond the ancient limits means beyond. What do they say? No one can change the inherent qualities of man unless their power extends beyond the great God Allah.
That's right, Mo.
And so not being on our own vine and fig tree is literally allowing someone to put their hands beyond you, but they can't put it beyond Allah. So this is all to say we're in the right place. We're coming up on our own vine and fig tree. I'm glad I dialed in. I'm glad I'm consistent. I'm glad I want this. I'm not forcing this. I know this. Islam, because this is what it is. And that great and awful day that should sure to come is the great tally of the good census.
Islam, definitely. Gratitude. I do have a question for the Moors. This is for everyone. So any and everyone can answer this question. My question is, what year did Christianity begin? And what year did Christianity begin?
Wow.
330
If there's a
AD.
ref-
With the Council
I
of
heard
Nicaea.
somebody.
Yeah, it happened about 330 AD with the Council of Nicaea.
Islam said 330 AD with the Council of Nicaea. Anyone else?
my general knowledge was just going to say about 2,000 years ago is
Okay, yeah, it's an actual year,
Islam.
Islam. So we want the year.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 325. 325 AD.
It's also 325 AD. All right, anyone else?
320 was when the Council of Nice met, correct?
I just
Mhm.
want to chime in. Oh, is someone else speaking?
Good, yeah. He just asked the question. It was Neil Bay asked 325 was when the Council of Nicaea basically originated. And then you came in, you said you wanted to chime in.
And mentioned that the first time I heard about the Council of Nicaea was about a year ago, not knowing prior to that there was a start. So I just want to chime in and say that.
That's fine. All right. So we got 325. We got 38. So what happened in 380? Yeah, 325. We got 380. Any
So
other dates?
325 was so significant because that is when they actually all came together. So the bishops had a vote in 325 AD to confirm whether or not Jesus was of the same energy, spirit, and texture as God is, or whether or not he was not. And 333 of the bishops voted that he was. And so that was the birth of the concept of Christianity. 380, if I'm not mistaken, that was the full acceptance of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes, ma'am. So we got 325. Anyone else while I'm pulling this up? Y'all are quiet. No one?
I'm actually doing some researching on my computer because I was in concurrence with 325 Nicaea, but there was an interesting question that prompted me to start searching. So I'm here. I'm curious now because I was with 325 Nicaea. But if there's other information, I'm willing to hear it.
I'm just looking at the picture that they got up here in the Britannica, and these don't look like no pale skinned Europeans to me.
Now, let me say this. I studied some time back during my
Mhm.
incarceration. I was looking in an encyclopedia,
Mhm.
and there were Arabic speaking Christians.
Mm. Mhm.
Yes, and they wasn't Europeans. This was something I ran across during the time I was studying.
So Romans aren't Europeans? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the ones who are today, yes. I mean, I think we go back further than that.
I'm talking about the original one. So I'm talking about the original Romans. That's the one that I'm asking about. So those aren't pale skinned Europeans, original Romans?
Not to my knowledge.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I have bits and pieces of information, though. Haven't concluded.
Sound like somebody was telling a lie. I think that somebody was what's the name of that publisher that publishes all the school textbooks? What's their name?
School textbooks.
Gutenberg.
It's not Gutenberg. You talking about old school textbooks.
Just working with I'm just working with you. You know,
You had
I done went to
McGraw
the
Hill.
original print.
McGraw
Oh yeah,
Hill.
McGraw.
Uh-huh. What's some more?
So McGraw's mama was a Gutenberg.
I think Gutenberg sold over to McGraw Hill. Yeah. What's some more, brother Macadio? Because I know you got school age child.
I forget the one I gave you not long ago that I was showing you. It wasn't McGraw Hill, but I want to say Scholastic Publishing was another one, but I'm not 100% sure on that. We were talking not long ago about one of the textbooks because my son brought it home, and there was some folly in there and foolishness that they were, mentioning, but I can't recall the name of it. I'm gonna look for it if I could see if I can find it.
Pearson, isn't Pearson one?
Folly and foolishness.
I think, yeah, Pearson, you got McGraw Hill, you got Pearson's,
Olin
Pearson.
Mills.
Pearson, did you say Olin Mills? That's one of them. I haven't heard that one in a long time. You got Pearson.
They were smooth because that was the way that they actually got into schools, because everybody was focused on them doing the photos, and they were not paying attention to the fact that they were actually behind a whole lot of the books. And then remember back in the day, we had this thing that was called a book fair. So a lot of times when you trace the money back, you found that the sponsor of the book fair was Olin Mills. So they kept their hands in a little bit of everything so that they could stay relevant. So they took the family pictures, they took the graduation pictures.
That's right.
Oh yes, every year, like something was wrong with you. You was
if
poor.
If
you didn't get an Olin Mills picture.
That's right.
Like, what you mean?
Better not be walking around with that proof.
Your family didn't get no Olin. Oh, y'all poor. We need to pick up a collection at the church. They family didn't get forget food. You didn't get no Olin Mills picture?
That's right.
Lord, they are poor.
Better not be walking around with the proof. Better get the real.
With that big proof written across there. It's got proof written across there, and you looking embarrassed like you trying to graduate with that in your hand. No, you're not. And I mean, no matter, it had nothing to do with race. If you was in school, black, white, Puerto Rican, green, you was gonna have some Olin Mills. You had Chinese people sitting up with their Olin Mills pictures. Wasn't nobody playing. It was understood, and that's how they stayed interwoven in. They controlled the narrative. They truly control the narrative. And when you make people feel like something's wrong with me if I'm not a real family. If I'm not getting family pictures, oh yeah, they ran that. So you had McGraw-Hill, you had Scholastic, like your brother was talking. Yep, Pearson's, all of them. They, they were all basically, they weren't competitors. They were in cahoots together, just like when you look at General Mills, Kellogg, all of that. It's not by coincidence that everybody knows what new flavor we coming out with. So you look at one brand and all the brands got the same thing. You look at Dove, you look at Lever, everybody's got the same thing. It's because everybody's in bed together. And that's the exact same thing that was happening with the books. They came with one accord as to what levels of deception were going to be taught and how much Bible they could put in there. So then you had the Bible, and the people were getting all this information at school, and it was being reinforced at church. So all of it was accepted to be true because you always trusted the teacher and you always trusted the preacher. So therefore, even if it's a lie, because I trust you all and y'all are the ones that are telling me, it's got to be the truth. Islam, I yield.
Because the preacher can't tell no lie.
Oh no, not the preacher. You'll get fought, and you better give him the biggest piece of chicken.
My mother called me a devil at 13.
Oh yeah.
12,
yes, indeed.
and I told her he wasn't saying what Jesus was saying. And
oh yeah, you a tremendous devil. Oh yeah, with a blue dress on.
And the truth ain't in me.
Oh no,
ain't doing no wrong.
Because the preachers was teaching nationality. Hear them tell it.
And their nationality is Christianity.
Islam.
Islam.
Remember, the first church actually started in the book of Acts, remember? We all remember that from church.
That's that story that they told us. And so when you actually look at that, because look at all them letters that was going out to everybody and all the foolishness that was going on in all the different churches. And so absolutely, when Paul set up and established, his little church, he was trying to get everybody to be streamlined and have everybody be one denomination and we all doing the same thing. But you had monkey shines going on back then. Timothy over there intimidating people.
That's right.
You didn't study. You ain't studied. You better study to show yourself approved like me. Oh yeah, it was hilarious. And then the Philippians was over there acting a monkey. It was crazy.
Come on now. Same spirit of then, we going through it today.
And that's the reason that they turned around and said they had to break it down because the bishops was trying to be polygamous. So they was like, no. You're going to be the husband of one wife. Because if you're going to do this, you ain't got time to serve God and 5 different wives and the people. We're not doing none of that. So we're about to shut you down. You got one wife.
You hear me, sir? Some of me want to be like Solomon. They wanted a whole bunch of wives.
Oh, yeah. And see, then they want to sit up and try to cite Solomon. But see, half the women that Solomon had, those were nothing but political alliances. He never slept with them women. Never. Like, it was optional because, you my wife. But no, I just want to make sure your daddy ain't going to come in and try to wreck up nothing. So if I'm married to his daughter, he ain't get ready to blow up something. And if I need something, I know I can go to your daddy and get it. So that's why I married you. But you may not hear from me. We ain't made no kids because you don't hear nothing about Solomon having, 4,000-5,000 kids. So if he had 2 babies by every last one of them women, we'd have made some things. So half them women Solomon wasn't fooling with. No, he had an inner court.
That makes sense because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had wives that he did not sleep with. Islam, definitely a line.
But that's not something that the brothers nowadays practice.
And the hush came over the whole chat. No, brothers don't practice that now. They want their goods and they don't even want to bring them to the temple.
In advance. They want them in advance.
Right, and
with
not
no
gonna
down payment or anything.
Not gonna marry them. I'm gonna just teach you about the moral science, and I don't want nobody else to teach about the moral science. And
right.
that's
87%. 87% of the shack rate never gets married. Absolutely. Sister K, did we answer the question?
Islam, indeed, definitely answer the question. I have some questions about the Council of Nicaea now. What was the significance of the Nicaea Council or the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah, it was several of the bishops, several of the high-ranking authorities, and they were in a division amongst themselves. So some people believe that that Jesus was of the same substance as God, and others believe that he was just a man that was anointed by God, but not of the same substance as God. So this is why they all had to come together, present their argument, and then vote. And so based on their vote, this is where we get the tenets of the Christian church. We all want to make sure that we're muted so that our background noise doesn't come through. But that's, so that was all literally based upon a vote because they were so divided amongst themselves that there was no peace within the land. Islam,
this brother sitting there in the house there.
Islam.
I just walked in my door from work.
Okay.
Y'all know I walk, to and from work, and
To and
y'all
fro.
doing the thing tonight.
To and fro, Islam.
Y'all doing the thing tonight, and I studied. I need to go back and restudy that, but I studied the Council of Nicaea back around 2011 and 2012, and what led over into that, I was going through 1540, the tearing down and rebuilding of the Holy Bible that led up to King James. But my question is this. According to the Council of Nicaea and the Roman yoke, 325, Christianity was made, so to speak. Now, everything that followed afterwards. And my question is, between 325 and 380, what year did Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salam, receive his revelation? And also, during that time period, the Hindus of India started their revelation somewhere up in there. Islam, can I get some help with that? Because I forgot the exact year during that time period that Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam received the revelation from the Archangel Gabriel. Islam?
Islam, that was 6. Somebody help me. It was 6 something.
Islam, 632 AD.
Islam, gratitude. That
so
was
it didn't really
Islam.
happen during that time. It came
Yeah,
afterwards.
it's like 300 years after.
Afterwards, right.
The first
And what was the other
Council of
thing you
Nicaea.
asked about, Brother Sidney? You said, when did the Hindus get their revelation?
Yeah, so it was, I think it was
Getting to
after.
revelation. Go ahead.
I think it was after 325, but before 380. I'm not sure. I forgot because, you know, this is some stuff that I was studying 10 years ago.
We
12.
study this now, but
12 years ago.
So the Hindus got their revelation 12 years ago?
No,
he
I
started
was
studying this
studying
12.
12 years ago. I was
When I
studying-
actually,
I
I
was
got
studying
you, I got
Council
you,
Nicaea.
I got you. Actually, Hinduism is older than both, actually, because most scholars are showing that Hinduism started between 2300 BC and 1500 BC. So this is why you see such an interaction in the Kushite Empire, because that during that time period, that's when you had most of the Neteru of ancient Kemet that were being worshipped. And so you had an interaction in between Egypt and India, because Egypt and India were one. And that's where we get the Kushite Empire from. So that's why you hear so many of us referred to as Kushites. So that whole tradition, everybody was one. So you didn't have all of this great division. All those people were one and they all operated together. So they were equally worshiping the Neteru as well as the Brahmic deities. And so that's why you'll also find that in ancient Kemet, it's not just the Neteru. They still acknowledge many of the gods of the Hindu pantheon and vice versa. You will find monks over there in India. So, you know, Indians really, go ahead. I'll stop talking. Go ahead.
No, you close it. That's good, fam. Islam. I just wanted to Islam is the phrase Jesus taught to the Hindus lets us know Hindus is also ancient people. Islam. What was I thinking that also yeah, we're talking about time for time. And then one thing you mentioned, Sister Keith, is about the many god pantheons in Egypt, which brought to mind Akhenaten, which is about 2000. What I'm not sure his date right now. But Akhenaten abolished all these many religions in Egypt. So it was a time when man was worshiping thousands of gods. It was untold numbers of gods. It was like they make up a new god, new tribe would make up a new god. And then we have Akhenaten come through, emperor of the world, abolished religion and established the one God principle, which is partially our overall lesson, is that we're backing up that fact. This one God, we're about Allah. Allah is the great God of the universe, which is we don't worship. We don't have scattered pantheons of gods because we've gone through those ages. And so even with the Hindus, you have many God figures. And then so when we coming into Jesus, we're deep into the one God principle. Jesus came to exercise that truth. If Akhenaten only spoke about it for a fact, then Jesus came and exercised that I am and my Father are one. And so again, it's so imperative that we come under our own vine and fig tree, that we may exercise the will of our Father God Allah. Because otherwise, we're subject to foreign hand. Islam and yeah, brother TDL.
Islam. You know I got a comment. Islam.
Keep it clean.
I like to thank Dr. Alicia for
keep it clean. Islam.
You know I got a measure. I got a comment. I like to thank Dr. Alicia for putting a little weight on that barbell, because that was a very important statement she made. The Hindus in Hinduism worked hand in hand with the Egyptian. And basically, she was saying that that was one empire at one time. And now, speaking of Antonov, most people know as King Tut, that led over to the design of the Sphinx. We have to remember something with that, Brother Mosey, is that
What?
during the Egyptian time period, they were different dynasties, and each dynasty fulfilled something. So when we get to talking about Antonov, King Tut,
Antioch.
we have to remember everything that went in there. See, because the one famous woman during his dynasty was Nefertiti, and
I know,
she was
bro.
his stepmother. But
She
that's
was his mother.
a famous name. Now, what about the dynasties before that that led up to him? You know, that's just like the dynasty of Solomon. See, Solomon took over the throne after King David. See, King David said that his son
Hey, bro.
would build his kingdom.
Okay,
And
bro.
during Solomon's reign, he covered a lot because he wasn't greedy for the riches. He was greedy for the wisdom
That's
and
because
the
he was
knowledge to
already
lead the people.
rich, bro. If he wasn't rich already, he would have been like the rest of these kings that was going around trying to receive all these riches. He
Right.
already
He was
had so
broke.
many riches that he couldn't even count them all. So that's why his thing was wisdom,
That's right.
because he didn't have to, that was already conquered for him, the riches
Right.
through his
That's right.
inheritance. But if he wasn't, if he didn't have, like, for instance, if we was considered as trust fund babies, right, today, then we wouldn't be worried about, setting up our trust, setting up our family estates, getting out of the corporate fictions, none of that, if this was already done for us. So then we'd be able to spend our time doing other things. Like a lot of times you'll hear us say things like, man, like when we look at these so-called celebrities today and we see their children, and we're like, man, if I was their child, I wouldn't even be doing all of that. But it's because their children, they don't have anything to do with all this extra time. They have all of this extra time, so they waste it instead of putting it into positive endeavors. They just waste it because they don't have to go out like the rest of us and actually make it happen. It's already created for them. They came into it, it's part of their inheritance. So that's the same thing with King Solomon. That's the only reason why he went after wisdom, because he didn't have to go after creating an inheritance for the next generation to come. Islam, I yield.
Islam. Islam, Moors.
Islam. I'm hearing a lot of great stuff on this Wednesday night.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Gratitude, my brother Evan Zia, for acknowledging me. Islam, I would like to, if she wouldn't mind finishing her statements. The doctor was talking about some things that we were discussing right now. And to my understanding, she was cut off. So I was really getting something from that.
That's right, brother. That's right.
And not to be disrespectful, but
that's right.
I thought we would always say, I yield the floor over. And that way we would know that one was finished. So I'm many things. And one, first and foremost, is that I'm a gentleman. And I would really love to hear if she wouldn't mind finishing her statement, because I was really been fed, edified by that. I yield.
Turned off from that.
Islam, and you are indeed a gentleman, and I appreciate every time, because this is not the first time that I've gotten caught in the middle of the testosterone wars, and you have covered my back. So I greatly appreciate it. And see, I'm lady enough to just move my little wisdom on out the way and let the testosterone fly. So
Islam.
what I was sharing was that I said what I said. And so what I was sharing was that with the Kushite Empire and with the beauty of that situation, that is the reason that even though they have a caste system now within India, when we go into a Hindu temple, they immediately gravitate toward us because they automatically know they do not reject us at all. We usually don't get hatred, excuse me, from the Brahmanites, as long as you're not trying to come at them with a cross and any type of foolishness, but they know that you're conscious, they fully embrace you. And I say, and I know that firsthand, we have a whole Indian mall here. I shop there, you know, this is where I get a whole lot of my cultural wear. And some of them are Muslim, but many of them are Hindu. And so if we could mute the sounds in the background, since this is being recording, that way we can get a really clean recording for everybody that is paying to receive the recording. Islam. Wow. So with that, the way that they receive us, they already know the truth. They also know that they are operating as Indians, but that we are the original. So Christopher Columbus talked too much. He said what he said about when he came over here, he saw Indians. He did. He saw the real deal, just like what he had seen in the Kushite Empire. So it was so extremely confusing to him because he's sitting up looking for some statues of Ganesha and of of Lord Ganesh and of Lakshmi and everybody else because of where he had left. So that's why we have to be so steadfast and clear. This is why ancient Kemet resonates with us, and it's not by coincidence that our prophet was an Egyptian adept. So he was showing us, what did he say all throughout everything we read in the Moorish Holy Quran? Everything refers back to Brahman, 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 every time you turn around. So he's showing you, I am an Egyptian adept, and I'm constantly giving you the connection with the whole Brahmin Empire. So we're pulling all of that together. You also are understanding who you are over here, and you're not going to wear a slave label because it is beneath you. So when you look at the Ankh and then you look at the Bindi, so the Bindi is either the dot or the long jewel that you'll see, or the tika that you'll see on many African and Indian women's heads. It is an indication that your first eye is open. And oftentimes it will be an Ankh. So that's what people don't realize. They're used to just seeing the jewels, but many a times ladies would actually get a tattoo over their first eye to protect their first eye, and that was a tattoo of an Ankh. So we have to really understand, as opposed to looking at other cultures as they are now, coming into a greater clarity that this was all us. All of this was us. And also because of the trade routes, we were very, very intimate with them because they were right there. We were doing business together, the whole 9
Wow,
yards.
teach.
Everybody was in bed together. There was no, oh, you're an Indian and not. No, you are my brother. We are all worshiping, and so it's
Come
just a
on, teach.
beautiful thing to have that level of fluidity. When we got Christianized, that's when we started putting people in boxes, even within Christianity. Oh, you're a Methodist. Oh, you're a holiness. It just wasn't that way. You were either a believer, so you had a spiritual practice, or you did not. When you even looked at the Moors back then were not hardcore Muslims. Islam was a trade religion. So you had to be a 5-time-a-day prayer, because really other people wasn't interacting with you, because that showed that you had a spiritual accountability. And I have something that I can actually govern myself by. I have a certain level of expectation from you. You're not going to sit up and take from me. And so much of the division that you now then had this Jewish law that was coming in. And so it's like, well, now, wait a minute. I'm looking at your law, and then I'm looking at the way that things are done with the Arabs. So I'm going to stick with the Arabs, because y'all do stuff where you favor your people and everybody else is the Goyim, so you treat them differently.
Teach.
And so then with the Arabs, we actually were dealing with the Muslims. We knew that you wasn't doing no left and right hand path. It was what it was. And so if you sitting up praying beside me, if a homeless Muslim came up as well, he was going to stand on the same line, and everybody, the prince and the pauper, were all going to pray together on the same line. It wasn't no separation. So you knew what you were dealing with. And that was the reason that they practiced. Yes, they practiced Islam, but it wasn't a hardcore. So yes, they were still dealing with a lot of the spirituality. So when you now see many of the West Africans, and actually, West Africa being South America, when you see those people practicing Ifa, practicing Yoruba, practicing Santeria, practicing Lukumi, it was practiced over here as well. This is why it's so heavy in Mexico. It wasn't always has been, and it was here. So it's not anything new or anything that was, you got to go to Nigeria and get hustled. Real, no. All of that was done. So there wasn't nobody running around talking about that's shirk. No, they was dead with it, because you could not worship the Netaru and worship all of the Brahmic deities and then be running around talking about stuff in shirk. So this is why, we have a good understanding, but we don't allow ourselves to be limited.
Wow. Yeah, right.
This brother's sitting there.
One second, brother Cynthia. Marcia, I just want to say one thing good to remember, because this is back to the Articles of Association. What it also had done.
Islam. My dearest sister, were you finished? Did you yield the floor?
I was not, but the testosterone wars began again. And so I was just going to move out the way. I apparently have spoken too much. And so I'll just take my place as a woman and just sit down. Islam.
No. 1 second, everyone. As a proposed teacher, I was just speaking up, not to interrupt anyone. Excuse me, Islam.
But you did, beloved. This is the second time that in the midst of me talking, it was just like my contribution. I had talked enough. You gave me enough time to talk, and now it was time for me to be quiet. So I'll just go ahead and
That's
do
not my
that, Sheik, and you go right ahead. Islam, I
That's not my
yield.
that's not my place, Islam. Go ahead.
Islam. So we're going to go ahead and yield the floor back over to Dr. Bilquis Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So, yes,
I
indeed.
love
So,
y'all.
we are all one,
Doc,
and everybody's
us.
excited. Islam, I yield.
Doc, don't you just love us?
I do. Oh my goodness, I do. I'm proud of me because I see the elevation in me. And this is
Guess
why
what?
I love Alicia, because see,
Guess what? I
Alicia
see
is
cuss words
balanced
all across my
and just
face.
she's
Cuss
sugar and
words.
spice, and she is coconut sugar. You
Sugar
see,
plum.
so she's just fine. There was a time that she was domino sugar, so
I
she done
seen,
gave you
I'm telling you, I
diabetes.
seen cuss words. Just about 6 months ago, they would have got cuss words, cuss words, cuss words. Everybody.
What? Oh, wait.
So Dr. Bill Keith
Islam.
reminded me
I
of.
love y'all.
So Dr. Bill Keith reminded me of in relation to the Art Association. She reminded me of the fact that we became human batteries.
I know your nose just went up, Sister Lee.
We became human batteries. We became open and
Put your nose
to
up, Sister
companies,
Lee.
corporations to take advantage of us.
Islam. So
Islam. That brother
Islam is to the Lam. Praise Allah.
Islam. This brother.
Islam, gratitude for all of the measures. We are now going to yield the floor back over to Dr. Alicia. Islam.
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 Whee! Glory. Yes, we thank the Most High for growth and for patience and for love and for truth, peace, and freedom. Can you say freedom? So now I politely yield the floor to the testosterone wars, and you brothers go forward. Islam, I yield the floor.
Ooh-wee. This brother sitting the hell on the house of hell by way of Salisbury, North Carolina. Islam. Somebody throw some water at me because Temple 2 is on Friday night.
Islam. I just
I have a measure. I have a measure.
Go ahead with your measure.
To the
Islam, I
Council
have
of
a measure.
Nicaea, Islam. So the
I have a
Council
measure.
of Nicaea, hold that thought right there, brother man. I got you. Islam. The Council of Nicaea was in the year of 325. I want you all to put that down in your notes.
Islam.
So that way, when you are studying, every time that we give out a date of a treaty or a war or an establishment, you should always notate it. So you should forever be updating your timeline. Islam.
Islam.
So when you're explaining about the church, you should be able to go back into the history of the church. See, you can't tell your family members, your loved ones, your associates that they need to leave the church, and you can't even explain to them when the church began. Because they only are going to respect the truth when you're able to show them by your demonstration and not just saying, oh, well, you know, that was given to us during slavery. So we need to come out of that and we need to be ourselves. But you're not providing them with truth and fact.
Come
This
on,
here
come on.
is the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Teach that lesson.
And our principle is truth. So
That's
we have
right.
to give them truth. We can't give them, oh, well, you know, that isn't for us.
Mm-mm.
You got to be able
Because
to
they think you the
show
devil
them
anyway. Mhm.
Islam.
That's right. That's right.
So 325. And then you can also show them where it is mentioned in the founding document that created the United States, which is the Articles of Association. This is how you bring it together. Islam, it's mentioned right there when it says the ancient limits of the Admiralty Courts. Admiralty Court began with the beginning of the church. Everybody got it? Council of Nicaea 325. Everybody got it?
Islam.
Got it.
That's 325 AD, right?
Islam.
Islam.
All right.
I should
Now,
have to
the
say, but I
Council
want.
of Nicaea, Islam, the Council of Nicaea. What was established at the first Council of Nicaea? The sister said it, so I don't want her to repeat it again, but she had already said it. What was established at the Council of Nicaea? Someone other than Brother Sidney from the House of Vale and by way of North Carolina? Somebody other than Brother Mosi Fat and Ill? Somebody other than Brother E. Rice Bay? Somebody other than Brother Arnell Bay? What was established at the first Council of Nicaea?
Islam, or is this in the chat? It's in the chat. It's in the chat. It's in the chat. Chat, 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 chat.
Islam.
Islam, Brother Curiel.
The Council of Nicaea was held to determine whether there's a separation between the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost or Holy
That's
Spirit.
right. That's right. That's right. Gratitude. It was to see if Jesus was a supernatural being. And it created 3 home offices that the church would be able to function through Jesus. What's the name of those 3 offices? The brother just said it.
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Islam. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Those are the three offices that the church still to this day operate under. It's those offices that created the courts of admiralty. Islam, gratitude, Moors. What were some of the things that the Council of Nicaea was not able to agree with during the first Council of Nicaea?
Beyond them agreeing about Jesus.
Islam, again, I'm going to ask the question again. And then everyone can ask Sheik Google. What were the two things that the first Nicaea Council could not agree upon? And so I'm going to call on some of you all who never speak. Let's see. Sister Asia. Or Aisha.
I keep getting kicked out. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What were the two issues that the first Council of Nicaea could not agree upon?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I know, I'm just being honest, like Phil Valentine was teaching on how the Council of Nicaea, they were trying to put false doctrine onto the people. And so that's where a lot of the conflict came from. But other than that, like I'm still learning. So
It's gratitude. Thank you for your answer. So everyone, when we come into our meetings, right, and most of the answers for most of us, we're not going to have it. We're not going to know it, right? But praise Allah that we have these things that's called updated libraries through the World Wide Web. So we can go on those tablets, phones, computers, right? Also, Brother Neil Bay, he will post a lot of the answers in the chat as soon as I or someone else asks the question. Islam. So those are just some of the resources that we all have available to us from time to time, right? Because I understand that all of us may not have it during that time. Islam. So, Dr. Khair Il, you have your hand raised. I know you know the answer, so I'm going to yield the floor to you.
Islam, I don't want to take the opportunity from anyone else. Did anyone else want to answer it? I can answer it, but I don't want to overstep my welcome.
I have a question.
Go
To
ahead,
just
Sister
restate
Scenario.
the question.
Yes, what were the two issues that the first Council of Nicaea could not agree upon?
Agree on.
Are you?
I stand corrected. Agree on.
Islam, Grand Sheikh is.
Islam.
I think I said one of the first ones, whether it was a separation between the three offices, and I believe the other issue was what books were going to be in the actual Bible. And I think that's where you get, I don't know if everybody, well, of course everybody understand that there's certain books that were left out of the Bible. One of them being the book of Enoch. Islam.
Islam. Gratitude. Gratitude. That was one of the things that came on later on was the books. Islam. But there also was the home offices were what they did agree upon, which was the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. Islam. They did agree upon those because they were able to come up with those 4 offices to be able to reign and rule throughout the world. And we see it today. Islam. Dr. Bilquis Ill, let me put your hand down. You can go ahead now.
Islam, so the two and everything that was shared is correct. There were minor issues that they were not able to come as one on, but the two big major ones that still are not resolved for today, they could not come up with a solid date for Easter, the worship of Ishtar. And the reason that they could not was because you're dealing with the worship of Ishtar around the fall, the spring equinox. And so it could range anywhere from the second week of March up until the second week of April. And so if you fix it, then you try to fix Ishtar into a fixed time of being born, and you can't do it. If you even look at current day, and if we mute our phones, then we'll have a clean recording. Even if you look at the worship of Lord Ganesha, he rules what we would call Virgo, and his celebration is anywhere from the end of August up until about the middle of September, just like you do with the zodiac. So there is not a fixed date that you have there. So because so many of them were pagan, So they were bishops, but they were also still full-fledged pagan. They knew that if they did that, they would lose the pagan community. And so within that whole dynamic, this is how we got Catholicism, because they took the principles of Christianity and they told the pagans, hey, bring all of your deities. We're going to make them saints. So now everybody you worship, we're going to make saints. We're going to keep the same energy, but give them biblical names. And you can light candles. You can light candles to each one of them. Just come on in and be a part of us and give your money. So this is one of the reasons that the Roman Catholic Church was able to just grow and grow and grow, because you did not have to give up any form of worship or idolatry that you were participating in. All you had to do was agree that they could become a saint, and now you could worship the saints. So that's why often when you go into Catholic churches, it's in and out, it's really quick, it's really dry. And the second big issue was the chastity and the celibacy of the clergy. So that's why you have so many situations, because you had a lot of very, very straight men who became priests. And so oftentimes what they would do is they would be in concert with some of the nuns. And so you would have the priests over in their spot, and you'd have the nuns over in the nunnery, where there would be a tunnel dug under the bottom that connected the two so they could secretly see each other. And unfortunately, you would often find the fetuses of dead babies in there as well, because the nuns, of course, because they were doing what they were doing, would get pregnant. Well, if you got your habit on, that's going to just cover you for a little while. And so they would oftentimes, rid themselves of the babies there. So this is one of the reasons that they made it. It was such a contradiction within the Catholic Church, because the parishioners were being told, you cannot have abortions. Like, that is one of the greatest sins, right up under suicide. But then you turned around and found that many of these nuns, especially the ones that ended up leaving the nunnery and telling their stories, had 2, 3, 4 babies that they had aborted because it would be an embarrassment on the church, and they were pregnant by the priest.
Teach that
Now,
truth.
You better teach.
Other piece, the other piece is that you're looking at your altar boys. They always made sure that your altar boys were between the ages of 8 and 11. The little boys under 7, they didn't bother. But the little boys that were 8 to 11, they considered them to be able to give consent, because 12, at 12, you were considered a man. So you were able to make the decision that you wanted to keep coming back, and you wanted to continue to consort with the priest. So in that time period, you would have agape love.
Sister,
Yes.
Islam, could you explain consort with the priests?
Oh yeah. They were consorting with the priests, so they were lifting their habit, and they were giving worship to the priest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so,
Sister, could you say it in
yeah.
a PG way that us folk could understand it, sister? We quite can't get the understanding just yet.
Yes. We'll put that in a prison term. They would have conjugal visits with the priest. Mm-hmm. So then they were the ones that were not having conjugal visits between the priest and the nun were then having this agape love situation with the little altar boys. Okay, so it became an acceptable practice that you would be married for the ones that were married. So this was before they put this mandate on.
I knew I didn't like agape love.
Right, right. And so it became a big issue out in California when Michael Beckwith finally really understood what the name of his church meant. Because see, agape love was that love that you saw the little phallus and the big phallus, which was the representation of the cross. So you had, you know, if he was married, that was fine, but there was always a little boy between the ages of 8 and 11 that would oftentimes come and live with them. So they would look for poor families and they would say, you know, we want to train your son to become an altar boy. So let him come and live with us for 3 years. We will pay you and then we'll send him back home. So literally, this child was sex trafficked. And it was done right there in the church. It was in the open. Everybody knew what it was. But because the parents had given consent, and because this is the great man of God that's doing this and training him, then nothing was said. And this became a common practice. So this is why it now is being made, because it was at a point for centuries of don't ask, won't tell. And so in my lifetime, so in the last 30, 40 years, this is when, no, we're not going to just keep moving these priests around from, you know, different parts of different coasts. So you done raped up a bunch of little boys over on the East Coast. Let's just move you over to the West Coast, and then nobody will be the wiser. And so that kept happening. And so what we have to understand is that your iniquity is going to find you out. That if you're doing something in the name of quote unquote God, whoever you're calling God, and you are harming children, because remember that the divine looks out for babies and fools. And so anytime you harm a child, you're going to always get that recompense coming back. So this is why so many of those priests died horrible deaths of cancer. So you took that child's soul at an early age, so you're going to die a slow rotting death. That's your recompense for what you took from that child. And so this is one of the reasons that one of the first major organizations that was friendly to the LGBTQ community was the Catholic Church, even though they put on this whole face that they weren't. They had to be, because they were the ones that turned a large majority of these little boys out. Many of these little boys then turned around once they got released to go back home after 3 years of being trafficked, and then they messed with their little sisters. So then their little sisters wanted nothing to do with men. And so you had whole families of LGBTQ children, and nobody understood why. That's why. Or you had all sons, and that one son that left came back messing with everybody. So now the whole lineage, and what nobody gave before, and now the whole lineage is turned out. So that's the blood that the Catholic Church has on one hand, and then the correspondence with the mafia and channeling the mafia money and letting it being laundered through the church. That's the blood on the other hand. And so the 7 hills that you find in Rome, this is the reason that that church is called the whore on 7 hills, because there was no faithfulness. We would just trick out to anybody. And that's what occurred. Islam.
Islam. Praise Allah.
Gratitude.
Islam.
Islam sound like we got some questions, some comments.
Is there any books that you would recommend to read to further educate ourselves on that subject matter that you just covered?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you how to do it the fun way. You know what? Amazon might even have them now. It is a series of comic books. And it was so smooth the way that they did it. It was a set of Jesuit priests that got convicted in their spirits and turned around and told everything. Let me see if, hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. But one good book is called He Came to Set the Captive Free by Rebecca Brown. Her two books expose so much. Your locks will stand on the top of your head. So I'm letting you know in advance. And if you scary, you don't want to read that. But that's going to be a primer. Let me give Rebecca Brown, Dr. Rebecca Brown.
Okay.
And then, hold on, let me give you these comic books because the comic books ain't funny. They're just drawn as comic books. But as you read them, you gonna be like, oh, wow, they done told everything. And I got a hold to these. Shoot, when did I start waking up? Like 93? And I had over 50 of them. And hold on, I'm gonna give them to you. Let me get the name of it. Here we go.
Why are you looking for them? The reason I ask is because, you know, I've had a great deal of fortune, you know, much like yourself, to travel the world a lot. And I have been to places and seen the depictions of the little altar boys and some of those behaviors that you described that have been chiseled in, you know, churches that are in very prominent areas, statues that are in very prominent areas, and it's on display. And, you know, I've never gotten the backstory, never gotten all of the details, but I've seen it. You know, I've, you know, kind of began piecing some of the stuff together. And then also through some research, you come to find out a few of the facts that you went over, but not the detailed stories of, you know, putting it all together and how everything came about. But I think a lot of people have not come to realize that, you know, homosexuality originated from the Catholic Church, and that the foundation of it is rooted in Catholicism and Christian religion. And you know, many people would be surprised if they actually did the research and found that out. Not to mention, even when in the depiction of the cross itself, you know, you've got two male parts where, you know, one
right. Those are the phalluses. Absolutely, that's the little boy's phallus and the man's phallus. Exactly.
It's not by coincidence that it's done that way.
Absolutely.
But I always like to show and prove. That's why I asked for the, you know, because that's our main defense when you're trying to wake somebody up. Or, well, where you get that information from? Or where, you know, show me where you read that.
Absolutely. I'm gonna give it to you right now. So the ex-Jesuit priest's name was Alberto Rivera. And even if you just Google his name and put in Jesuit priest, you'll see it. And so he wrote a whole series from 1979 until 2011. And he knew, because the information was so heavy, he couldn't write a big, thick book because people weren't going to read them. But if he put things in comic books, and so Chick Publications, CHICK, Chick Publications went through and they took all of his stories and turned them literally into comic books. And I don't think none of the comic books are more than like 30 pages, but I would be so absorbed with them. So I'm sitting here working on a doctorate in, at that time, I think that was just like divinity. No, that was theology. So I'm over here studying for my doctorate in theology, but then wait a minute, I'm reading this, and this right here is crazy. I'm already an Eastern Star, and now I'm reading this right here. So it was mind blowing. So I'm gonna let you know, this is heavy, deep, well-documented material
Matrix.
made very easy. But as you read it, it is a headbanger, and it's over 50 of them. It's fine. Right here. Brother Claudio, were you trying to ask something?
No, I was just asking. For a minute, you cut out for a quick second. I was wondering if the Matrix had got you. That's all.
Oh no, and I know whenever we drop in deep stuff, it tries its best. But no, that was it. So his name is Alberto Rivera, and he is an ex-Jesuit. And yeah, so they killed everybody around him. It was not a game trying to shut him up. And it was like the more people they killed, the more he went in. And so then they tried to call him a fraud and do all of this. But yeah, if you read those two Dr. Rebecca Brown books, and then this series here, anytime any Christian comes to you with any question about anything, that's gonna shut it down. Somebody else that's a good source is Chick Publications itself, because we used to use little Chick tracts whenever we were, witnessing to people or whatever, but they tell on themselves.
Islam says, pardon me. For those who aren't speaking and you're not asking a question, please do not unmute yourself. Islam, we want to be able to keep the recording so that it is clear as possible. But I keep muting you, but you keep unmuting yourself. I want you to stop that. Islam, I yield the floor.
So, Sister Kiriel, how many books did you say it was? You said it was 50? Because I found 8 so far on this publication website that you were mentioning, but I want to make sure if there's more.
Yeah, it's literally over 50. And then when I became a Hebrew Israelite, they were like, you got to get rid of all of that. And so because I was, so ride to die with it, I actually did throw all of those away. Had I known what I know now, I never would have. But they should all still be in publication. And like I said, they kept on publishing his stuff up until 2011. So I became a Hebrew Israelite in the early 2000s. So he had written just headbangers back then. So they were continuing to publish stuff. Then the even more recent stuff is going to be even deeper. But I had never even heard of a Jesuit. And so he went in, he exposed the whole Jesuit priesthood and all the things they were doing. And I was like, stop it. And what I loved was, just like you've traveled, you've been to Rome, you've seen the statues, he would have it right there in your face. And it made it so that you were able to truly connect the dots and understand what you were really seeing. Like when you see Magen David, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, is that what that really is? Everybody wants to go take pictures and all of that with it. But when you really understand what it is, it's like, oh, okay. And then it forces you to start looking at many of the Roman gods and the perversion that goes with it. It will make you be repulsed every time you read the word Valentine's Day. When you see how they would rape the 14-year-old virgins and cut out their hearts. So this is why the heart, the red heart, is indicative of Valentine's Day. And it would be a 3-day orgy called Lupercalia, Lupercalia. You can Google it. It's there. But then we want to take our innocent babies and have them trade Valentine cards, continuing to perpetuate that level of child pedophilia. And they would purposely target 14-year-old virgin girls. This is why this is the 14th of February. It was a 3-day orgy. And the older men would come in, and the girls that would get sacrificed were the girls that would resist. So, it's just so deep. And you may have to go to DuckDuckGo because, Google tries to be funny. But if you put in the deep truth or the ugly truth of Lupercalia, it will take you there. It'll also show you books so that you've got it right in front of you. So if any of the brothers are getting pressure from their wives or their girlfriends or whoever you are consorting with about give me stuff for Valentine's Day, you can let them know, baby, I don't do that. That's filth. Here's what you can look up. And if you tied to that, then you can't be tied to me. It's fine.
Islam, this brother Sidney L. I'd like to thank the doctor for her enlightenment tonight. She's on fire tonight. And she brought some light to me, because several months ago, and I had wondered about the picture. And, I apologize for my description of the picture, but the picture was of a
Hold
European
up. Keep it clean.
The European Catholic with a ram. And it was a Catholic priest with a little boy, and it had his hand on the little boy's head.
Okay.
No, it wasn't like that. I understand it was like he was greeting the little boy. He was sitting down, the little boy was standing beside him, like he was greeting the little boy, with his hand on his head. It wasn't.
Let's leave it there. Let's leave it there. Yeah. Give thanks and praise, and let's discuss the situation.
Islam.
Give thanks and praise. So yeah, definitely that. We're now all seeing things. Brother Mosi, I'll yield to you in just a second. We're able to see things a lot more clear now. And because we're graced to be in a temple where the truth can be exposed, we'll be able to go through and actually share the truth of all of these European holidays that we have been taught to participate in. When we give our energy to these things, then we become a partaker of the perversion that is affiliated and attached to it. There is no way that we can call ourselves Asiatic and then know what happened to Asiatics on Thanksgiving and then participate in it in the name of, well, it's about my grandmama. What about all the grandmamas that were sacrificed so that you could have Thanksgiving? Them wasn't no red-skinned Indians. Them people was us. Those people were us. And we spit on their ancestors' graves every time we do it. So it's important that we understand the deception, because we either are going to be Negro, Black, and colored, or we're not. And we have to understand the levels of deception. And we have children and grandchildren that we have to teach the truth to. Just because nobody taught the truth to us, we don't let the spirit of deception continue on generationally. I yield. Go ahead, Brother Moses.
Brother Mosiel.
Oh, Islam. I just wanted to say for the call, I feel it's important for every call that we recognize it's not an adult only phone call. that we have children on the call, even if they're not on the call, and that we teach them with our words. For if my child was on the call, she'd know now. She'd say, "Daddy, what is this? Daddy, what is that?" Because we educating with our words. We could talk about the evils of the world. Keep in mind, we'll be educating, and we don't participate in such evils. At the same time, it's under our discretion as we study history. Though, just that, especially for Brother Sidney, my brother, just keep in mind that it's a family call. We're educating, and every one of our words has weight to it. Islam. With that, I yield.
Gratitude.
Islam, I agree.
Islam, this brother Chanel, I do apologize for my former words. Thank you. Islam.
Praise Allah.
Islam, not just you, bro.
Islam, gratitude. Doctor, did you have any more references for the Moors?
Those two are going to be the most meaty ones, so you're not just getting a little bit here and a little bit there. Those two right there, anytime any Christian comes to you about anything between Alberto Rivera and everything with Chick Publications, and then those two books by Dr. Rebecca Brown, yeah, really ain't nothing they can come to you with that you can't be like, hold up, horsey, we hey, and it is that one, that first one that she did, he came to set the captive free. It's not a game. And again, if you are scary, or if you live alone and you scared in your house, you don't want to read it, because she goes deep into the spirit realm with that thing. So that's not what you want to read. You want to get the comic books and keep it light.
Islam, another question, if I may. If you can go back for me at the beginning, before you got into the explanation, you said the council met to determine when Easter would be, and you said they also met for what other purpose?
Sure, it was Easter, and then to determine the celibacy requirement of the clergy.
Okay, and the other question I had was in regards to, you said that search engine was DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. So if you put DuckDuckGo in, switch you over from Google, and then a lot of the things that Google has hidden, DuckDuckGo has no interest in having to hide. So you're going to find, and that's just with anything, like anything spiritual that you really want to get into the deep meaning. If you even do the deep dark history of Thanksgiving, of Valentine's Day, you do that on DuckDuckGo, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. But you do that on Google. Google is so tied into trying to sell things for Valentine's Day, that it's counterintuitive for them to really, really let you be able to see just how egregious this really is. DuckDuckGo isn't in the same arenas. So they're just like, no, let's put it up. Let people see everything. But yeah, if you just put in, you always want to use the word deep, dark, or ugly truth. If you put in the deep, dark secret of or history of, and use each of the holidays, start there. All the light bulbs, everything will start going off in your head. You'll be able to better understand why, as Moors, we don't celebrate holidays on the day of. We create our own because it has its own energy. When we do it, when the world does it, then we're giving energy to the purpose that the world has put to it, which doesn't align with our energy. It's fine. I yield.
Gratitude, sister. I appreciate that.
It's on gratitude. Did anyone else have any questions or comments?
Islam, if I was sitting there, I have a comment, if I may. And my comment is that I appreciate the doctor for her wisdom, but I wanted to comment in a respectful manner on something that she said earlier that I was in disagreement with. And I was in disagreement with her words of taking a woman's place. And the reason I was in disagreement with that is because we're under the banner of the temple. We're under the banner of the Moorish Temple of America, Temple 2. And according to some laws, especially religious Christian theology of 1540, says that women were not allowed to discuss religious issues unless they was in the privacy of their home and with their family. And my disagreement comes from that because when we're in temple, you're with your family and you teach and you lead, even though we become unruly at times. And that's my comment. Islam.
Islam. Right, brother Rice Bay here. Appreciate that comment, brother sitting here. But in response to that comment, doctor was being sarcastic. You know, she wasn't saying that she gonna take her place as if that's what she was actually going to do. She was being sarcastic. Okay. Now, we all grown on this chat. And like most of you said, we also have children. You know, sometimes my children be listening in. So what I want to say is this. We have to apply these lessons sincerely, not as if we're just reading something to become knowledgeable about something, but to actually apply them to our very beings, to build our house, to straighten out the crooked places of the way.
That's right.
This is what this is about. We're on here. We should be expressing that real divine love that the prophet demonstrated to us. That is our first and foremost principle. And it is the most powerful principle. All the others hang upon it. And if we don't learn to love, we're never going to get anywhere. Islam, when I come on here, I express my sincere love for my brothers and sisters because it comes from the heart. I've never seen any of you, but we are studying the same thing that should make us one. There shouldn't be no vain discourse amongst any of us. Islam, and I say that sincerely from the heart. We're going to meet one day. Then we're all going to be face to face with each other with an opportunity to express some love for each other in whatever capacity that we may find ourselves in, whether we building or whether we're congregating in friendship, that love must be out front. Islam Moors. So I hope and I pray. No, I don't hope. I pray. I pray that we can move forward in love and learn from one another. I don't speak all the time, but when I do, it's a reason behind it. It's a cause. And that I respect each and every one of you on this chat line. You'll never hear me interrupt anyone. I don't think we all should use that as a practice. I yield the floor. Islam.
Islam. Praise Allah, honor to a divine prophet. I would like to build on what the Dr. Bill Keith had demonstrated about the holidays and the giving the energy. You know, I'm a really sensitive person, okay? Or an individual, I should say. I'm a sensitive man. I'm a sensitive man. And I remember growing up, and I always felt the holiday spirit. You know, watching my holiday movies, Home Alone, the Jingle Bell Rock, all of the demonstrations. I used to feel that joy around that time, especially when I used to believe in Mr. Saint Nick. Furthermore, with Thanksgiving, furthermore with Easter, etc. And even when I had initially made it to the joint as a Christian, we was gonna be watching some football or gambling on some football on Thanksgiving, casting lots for the swine. We was all gonna be trying to dip or make something to eat during Christmas time, so we could still have that same energy. And Easter. And in fact, they make it so real. They serve you Thanksgiving and they serve you Christmas meals in prison. They don't want you to forget that. And even when I began to quit those things, then I was doing my Torah holidays, Yom Kippur, Shavuos, that's Pentecost. You got the Feast of Tabernacles. You got Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah, the head of the year. And I even used to feel the same, like the little, okay, good energy while I was practicing that calendar. And even better nowadays, like this how real it is. I remember when I got introduced to Happy by the doctor. And Happy is going through my birthday. I'm on June 19th. I'm on the cusp. And Happy, he demonstrates 2 times in a year in January. And I was feeling happy during January. So I was feeling that energy. Even with our temple, Authority Day, even if we didn't do too much, I remember, hey, it's Authority Day. Even on the Holy Day. Even if I wasn't holy on the whole Holy Day, I still remember, hey, it's a Holy Day. So it's serious about these energies that we give into. I forgot it was Labor Day. I didn't know it was Labor Day yesterday or Monday. My boss was like, hey, oh, nice, thanks for being out here. I'm like, yeah, I ain't even, I didn't know it was a holiday. So, and I've been receiving just little blessings from Allah, just little pieces of joy. It's wrong with that portion I yield and gratitude for the bring out. And I felt that demonstration, so I wanted to share it. It's wrong.
It's gratitude for everyone's measure. Praise Allah. I want to get into this portion in here within the Articles of Association, right? Because it says it brought up the courts of admiralty, right? the courts of admiralty.
We was on Article 12.
That was Article 14, brother, the courts of admiralty.
Islam.
Islam. I'm gonna share my screen here. Because this is why we're going through much of what we are going through today due to the courts of admiralty, which is the root of Christianity, right?
Recording. Islam, I'm seeing this, well, I think I'm seeing this in my, We do solemnly bind ourselves. Hey, just to make sure I got a good, accurate copy. You said number 14, we do further agree and resolve. Does it read off like that?
Let me see.
And we do further agree and resolve.
That's right.
Okay, praise Allah. I got a good copy then.
Islam, gratitude. Right. It said, and we do solemnly bind ourselves and our constituents under the ties aforesaid to adhere to this association until such parts of the several acts of parliament passed since the close of the last war. Anyone knows what the last war was before 1774?
I'm thinking French and Indian War.
That's right. That's right, Brother Mosiel.
Islam.
The French and Indian War, which is still going on today. Remember on Sunday where I showed everyone where the same people who came over here, at that time it was Louisiana, and they came through the same house, quote unquote, house of slaves house that they have in Gori, Senegal, where all these brothers and sisters go annually, right? Saying that that is the door of no return, that actual location was never a house for slaves, and that it was owned by a woman who actually was in the slave trade or the trade of slaves. And so during that French and Indian War, those Acadians, because that's what they were, Acadians, European Acadians, they ran from Europe and came over here for refuge, right? They were refugees. Do y'all recall going over this on Sunday?
Islam.
Islam. Gratitude.
Islam,
So
they went into Louisiana.
that's right. And at that time,
Islam.
at that time, Louisiana was Canada, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all of the middle part of the Midwest, all the way down. Islam, right?
Islam.
So when it talks about the last war, that was the last war when we allowed the refugees to come over so that they wouldn't be murdered or persecuted. Islam,
Islam. The refugees from the Acadian War.
from the French and what they call the French and Indian War. They
French and
were
Indian War.
Acadians. Islam, right? They were Acadians, who were a form of the Dutch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, New Dutch. Where was New Dutch located?
Gotta be close to where New France was. Sound like it was in Canada
Anyone, where
at
was
that
New
time.
Dutch? Where was New Dutch located?
I'm going to say in New York.
That's right. That's right, Sister Shamir L. New Dutch was that whole area. New York, your Massachusetts, your Pennsylvania, going all up into Canada, what we know as Nova Scotia, etc. That's New Dutch. Islam. So says the close of the last war as impose or continue. Right, so this was a continuance. These are taxes. These are taxes that continues on when the war was over, right? Duties on tea, wine, molasses, syrup, pannies, coffee, sugar, pimento, indigo, foreign paper, glass, and painter's colors imported into America, and extended the powers of the admiralty courts beyond their ancient limits. So the admiralty courts' ancient limits was the church. The admiralty court's ancient limits was the church. Islam?
Islam.
Admiralty court. Admiralty
So that's
court,
what it.
also known as maritime court, is a court that exercises admiralty or maritime jurisdiction and hears civil cases related to admiralty or maritime law. In the United States, the admiralty jurisdiction is authorized by the U.S. Constitution. See Constitution Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1, right? 321. This is where they get the Article 3 court from. All right. I want everybody to write this down. This is where the saying Article 3 court comes from? Islam? The Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. 3, 2, 1. All right. Conferred by the U.S. Constitution, federal district courts. So in the U.S., the 321 courts, or the Article 3 courts, are conferred by the U.S. Constitution in the federal district courts, have original subject matter jurisdiction over any civil case of admiralty or maritime jurisdiction. Federal courts are called admiralty courts when exercising admiralty or maritime jurisdiction. See 28 U.S.C. section 1333. 28 U.S.C. Code section 1333, admiralty, maritime, and prize cases. The district court shall have original jurisdiction, exclusive of the courts of the states. Anyone know why the district courts are exclusive of the courts of the states? Anyone other than Barnesville?
What, wards of the state?
Why does the district courts in the states of the court, so why is it that the district courts have original jurisdiction exclusive of the state courts? I just went over it. I just went over it.
The maritime law factor.
The reason why is because the federal district courts have what? Original subject matter jurisdiction. The federal district courts have original subject matter jurisdiction. So that is the reason why the district courts have original jurisdiction subject matter exclusive of the courts of the state. The federal jurisdiction is different, or is it the same as the state jurisdiction?
Different.
Different. So if these are two different jurisdictions, and it's saying that the federal U.S. District Court has original subject matter of the civil case at hand, then why is it for those who's doing things like a, name change? Why are you going to state courts? Why are you going to a state court when you're dealing with a matter of Christianity? How do we know we're dealing with the matter of Christianity? Well, let's go back to it. Admiralty Court, also known as Maritime Court, is a court that exercises admiralty or maritime jurisdiction and hears civil cases related to admiralty or maritime law, right? Islam?
Islam.
Can I be
Islam.
heard?
Islam.
Islam. So for those who want to go, and this is only for those who want to go and get a name change. For those who want to go and get a name change, if you want to go get a name change, don't do it in the state court. It's a matter of the church. It's a matter of the ancient jurisdiction of the Admiralty courts, which is the church.
That's right.
See, they say that church and state is separate, right? But when they say church and state is separate, what they're saying is the federal district courts are separate from the state court.
That's the hitting in blind sight, plain sight, excuse me.
Islam, it doesn't mean that, oh, you can't bring church matters into court. No, it means that the federal jurisdiction is different from the state jurisdiction. That's all it means. Islam?
Islam. Islam, Grand.
Islam, go ahead.
While we on the subject matter of the courts, so the federal court would be the Supreme Court, or because I like where I live at, we have like the district courts. So our district is the 7th district. And so as of right now, I'm dealing with the colorable courts. And so I'm at the point where I want to go into a higher court. So with that next step, it wouldn't be the district court because that's the state court, correct?
It would be the federal district court.
Federal district court.
Right.
Islam.
Islam. So the state courts pattern themselves the same way that the federal courts have patterned themselves. So you have the Supreme Court, right, on the federal side. And you'll hear people say all the time, oh, the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. That's far from the truth. That is garbage, right? That's what they have to follow. I mean, all it is a couple of people giving their opinion on what on what a subject matter is. That's it, and that's all. It's like barbershop talk, right? But they're in robes. So you have the district court, the U.S. District Court, right? District court in the United States federal judicial system refers to the 94 trial courts throughout the nation that determine facts and apply legal principles to both civil and criminal cases. At least one district court sits in each state, including the United States 4 territories. Additionally, each district includes a bankruptcy unit. Didn't we go and get EINs for the bankruptcy for that all caps name? Didn't we do that, y'all? Y'all remember doing that?
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, one of our last assignments. Islam.
Islam. See, because this is where these, I'm showing you that this is where the ancient Admiralty courts are utilizing its jurisdiction today. Right? It never stopped. No, it doesn't stop at the church service. It continues, right? So it said each district court includes a bankruptcy unit. District court judges are appointed to the bench for life terms. Life terms. How do you get to sit on a court panel for life?
If it's property.
If it's what? Say it again.
If it's property and if you was appointed. I mean,
it is property.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how that happens.
That's how that happens. If it's property. Ain't that a form of slavery?
That's right.
Islam.
Islam.
That's right.
That's a form of slavery. A life term? That's slavery. But I guess it's okay if you're a judge, right?
Or if it's your vine and fig tree, yeah.
I'm talking specifically about the judges.
Islam.
When Islam want to stay in context.
I get it. It's like almost somebody being set as a taskmaster for the rest of that's his inheritance on the slave plantation. I get it. I mean, you got wardens.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you got wardens in the state pen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, still the same wardens for 20 years ago.
Come on now, life terms.
Judges in the county. I'm glad that I might put my vote in for Bloodworth. I ain't gonna lie though. I might put my vote in for Brother Judge Bloodworth.
Life terms. Article 3 of the Constitution governs the appointment, tenure, and payment of Supreme Court justices and federal circuit and district judges. These judges, often referred to as Article 3 judges, are nominated by the president and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Article 3 states that these judges hold their office during good behavior. I mean, ain't that like prison? Islam, which means they have a lifetime appointment, except under very limited circumstances. Article 3 judges can be removed from office only through impeachment by the House of Representatives and conviction by the Senate. Article 3 judgeships are created by legislation and enacted by Congress. Track authorized judgeships from 1789 to present. The Constitution also provides that judges' salaries cannot be reduced while they are in office. Article 3 judicial salaries are not affected by geography or length of tenure. So as a Article 3 judge, it does not matter you're going to be a slave, but appear to be over the people.
This that Wizard of Oz right here, y'all. This is I mean,
Whoa, wait! I didn't even realize what I said when I said that, sis, about the taskmaster. You just opened it up a little more.
it's wrong.
They was in slavery
Hollywood,
too.
Hollywood, Hollywood.
They
Hollywood.
was in.
This is a movie.
Islam,
This is the
Islam. So
world stage.
Islam, Islam. So are you saying that these judges, these
No,
federal
this is
court,
what they're
Supreme
saying.
Court,
Islam. I'm just repeating.
these federal judges, and these Supreme Court judges, they're enslaved by the land or the Constitution of the Roman government?
They're enslaved by the church, Islam. They're taskmasters of the church.
Yeah, that's
So what would make a
Islam.
grand chief different from them, brothers and sisters? Are we the same as them?
We private, Mo. We are private.
No, not the
That's
same as Islam.
Y'all make me laugh, right? And I probably shouldn't even say this, but
don't say it.
That's right. Tell
it's clean. It's clean.
That's right. If you have
It's allowed. It's allowed.
And you probably shouldn't say it.
Tell about it.
About 3 years. About 3 years.
That's right.
About 3 years ago, I had a brother, a guy that I knew, and he never really joined the Islamic organization, but he used to study. He used to do a lot of study. And his trials and tribulations caused him to have to leave home. And but he wouldn't leave town. And they were pursuing him. And I was working the night shift at a steakhouse restaurant. And he would come in every other night, sit at the counter, drink coffee. And a lot of times the older guy would come in and sit beside him and drink coffee. And one night after the older guy left, he asked me, he said, man, he said, as long as I've been knowing you, let me ask you something. I said, what's that? He said, what you know about maritime law? I said, huh? He said, what you know about maritime law? He said, it's maritime law going on with me. And at that time, I didn't know how to respond. And I really hadn't seen him since, to be honest. And I was just sitting here thinking about that. Maritime law and in the judicial system.
Islam, gratitude. So if these judges are supposed to be making judgments over a lifetime, right? They are taskmasters, AKA slave holders. Slave holders. Keeping the slaves.
Are not slave holders. We come to free our people. Islam.
Islam, that's right. Slave holders who's there to make sure that we some good slaves.
Islam.
Islam, we some of the best slaves. Because we're gonna follow all the laws, all the statutes, all the codes for the slaves to follow, right? But see, we're not under their jurisdiction. And the reason why we're not under their jurisdiction, because we're under our own vine and fig tree. See, we're not under Christianity. See, you give Christianity and the church back all of what it gave you, it provided for you when you joined the Moorish Science Temple of America. We go under our own vine and fig tree.
That's right.
And under our own vine and fig tree, we're under the banner of Islam, which is peace.
Peace with everything, Islam.
Islam.
Allah in man, Islam. Emmanuel.
Islam. So for those who go into court for anything, right? It's civil cases. I put a template in Mighty Networks. In this group right here called Credit Restoration Process. And each of these documents, right, you got your debt validation letter, you got your notice of dishonor, your notice of default in the EDC, the affidavit of notary presentment, notary certificate of default, right? So you can get your default judgment. This document right here, along with all the rest of these documents, whenever you're going to take an entity into a civil matter claim, because that's what you're making a civil matter claim, right? You don't have to go to the state court. I'm gonna say it again. You don't have to go to the state court. Instead, you can go where civil matters can be heard, right? The original jurisdiction of where civil matters can be heard, which is the federal U.S. District Court. Now, this is where many of us get caught up, right? Because we'll go to the federal U.S. District Court and we'll open up a case, right? We'll say, I'm in Illinois, so U.S. District Court. We'll go to the one in Benton. All right, so this is the Southern District of Illinois. This is the one next to me, right? So what most of us will do is we'll say, and this is the Seventh Circuit, we'll say, I want to file a case, right? So we can click on here, or we can go down to the actual courthouse and file our claim. And when we file our claim, let's see if I can find a form. Rules and forms. Here we go. Right, most likely we'll use one of these, a civil cover sheet, right? And we'll put that where the plane is and, the county, if there's an attorney, then the defendants, and if they got attorneys, and, we'll fill all this information out here and so on and so forth. And then we'll
pay for the fees, right? I think it's like $350 or something like that now for a civil case fee. Let me see. Let me see. Court costs. Doesn't give the actual fee. Filing fees. That's not the one I want, but that's definitely the one. See. Oh, that's just to get the $350 for filing a civil action or proceeding. $350. $350. So a lot of times what happens is you'll have brothers and sisters that's in the penal system will put in a motion and affidavit to proceed in district court. This one right here. Motion and affidavit to proceed in district court without prepaying fees or costs, right? Which is a form of papyrus, right? Basically saying that you don't have the money to pay it, and then you won't have to pay for that, right? And that's to be heard by one of the taskmasters, one of the slaveholders, to be heard by one of the slaveholders or one of the taskmasters to tell you no. Because 9 times out of 10, you know, they only gonna let a couple of slaves off the plantation. Can't let all the slaves off the plantation, right? You know, they do things like they will order a psych evaluation. You know, they do things like constantly saying that your points in law are mute. You haven't made a direct request that they can actually form an answer on. So it's denied, right? So on and so forth. But if you were to can my co-host mute whoever that is out? Gratitude.
Yes.
If you were to go and file a miscellaneous or record a miscellaneous default, because you already did all of the work when you sent in these forms. See, you already had court. You had court on paper. It's a civil action. It's a civil suit. You had court on paper already, but because it is a church matter, because it's the jurisdiction of the church, the only thing left for you to do is to record it in the church. The only thing left for you to do is record it into the church jurisdiction. So you record it into the church jurisdiction with this right here. It says, for filing any document that is not related to a pending case or proceeding. Because you're not going in there and you're not asking for permission for anything. It's $49. It's $49. For filing any document that is not related to a pending case or proceeding. Any document. Any document. Any document. That is not related to a pending case or proceeding. It's $49.
Islam.
Islam.
You say that's in the district court, U.S. District Court?
It's in every U.S. district court. There's 49, it's 94 of them. And then there's 4 of them in the territories. 94 federal U.S. district courts.
Right, right. And that means
what I'm saying is you're going in and you're asking for the state court to give you something that they don't have original jurisdiction to hear.
That's right. That's
The
right.
jurisdiction is under the church.
That's right.
So with the jurisdiction being under the church, that means it's in admiralty court. In the
That's
U.S.,
right again.
in the United States, the admiralty jurisdiction is authorized by the U.S. Constitution. See Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1, conferred by U.S. Constitution and the federal district courts. Have original subject matter jurisdiction over any case of admiralty or maritime jurisdiction. It's about the all caps entity. That belongs to the church where it originated from.
Islam.
Islam, that is within the church jurisdiction. So when you put in the church on notice and you telling the church, see, you know, one thing I do like about that brother that they called Martin Luther, right? He went and he studied and he took some 600 some odd articles to the church and said, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you ain't supposed to be doing that, you ain't supposed to be fornicating, you ain't supposed to be doing this, this is against the church laws and the church rules, so now reform. Reform. Go back to the original.
Praise Allah.
Jurisdiction of the church. And what he was talking about was what Jesus set up.
not the Council of Nicaea. Go back to peace. He was the Prince of Peace, right? Go back to
He
peace.
said,
Go back to his orders. He gave a couple orders, didn't he? Then brother man, Jesus, which means what? What did Jesus mean?
Justice.
Justice.
cool.
See, the prophet ain't give us Jesus because that's what the only thing we knew. For all those so-called leaders that's been saying that for years, tell them to go sit down. And don't sit down in the back because they don't need to observe. They need to be front and center, be the first ones, right on the front row, so that they can learn. Been teaching younger Moors coming in all of this folly. So when this church matters, when his church matters, it's the federal U.S. District Court. It's the federal U.S. District Court. What I'm currently working on is I'm working on a notice to give not only to the federal U.S. District Court, because that would be the last place that I will follow it in, but the first place is going to be the church itself, right? This thing right here. Right? Holy See. The Holy See. Because you got to put them on notice. And then you go here. You want to go here first. Giving Christianity back. Giving Christianity back. Look at all of these nations. Look at all these nations that they have conquered. All of these nations that they've conquered. All of these nations where they have spread their message and their wars. And folks just minding their business, you know, living their best life. And here come their army. What's the name of their army?
Islam United Nations.
Islam, that's one of their institutions, but what's the name of the actual army?
Crusaders? No, Salvation Army. Islam.
Red Cross.
There you go, bro. Islam.
The Red Cross definitely is one of their armies. But what was the original one before the Red Cross?
The Knights Templar.
The Knights Templar is that was a fraction of it, right?
The Jesuit.
The Jesuits. There you go.
Ooh. How about the Druids? Is that the same?
Say it again.
Are the Druids the same as the Jesuits?
It's the Jesuits, brother. That was the.
Oh, they're different.
That was the first army. The Jesuits.
Islam.
Islam. Druids, that's a people. It's
Okay,
not a
got
army.
it.
That's a people. We're talking about an army that was sent out and created many organizations, many entities to appear to look like actual official governing bodies, where many people forgot who they were. And this is throughout the world. This didn't only happen to us, right? But see, they got something. They got something that they want to, be a part of. And, they got their own equity action plan. They got their own equity action plan. All right. So I'm going to put the equity action plan in Mighty Networks. I'm going to post that. And everyone can study and read. And, if you're looking for, to bring a suit of equity in the civil federal district court, you want to do it with the Holy See first. You want to do it with the Holy See first, because see, every one of these, the Holy See has many districts within it, right? They call
You said
them
the Holy See or city?
the Holy See. That's what it's called, brother. It's
SEA.
called no, SEE, Holy See.
SEE. Okay, I'll take that
SEE.
note.
Right.
Huh.
It sits in Vatican City. Yeah, the Holy See sits in Vatican City.
Okay. The Holy See. I wonder what that means in Latin. Now I want to know what that C means.
Yeah, so
SEE.
it's Admiralty, brother. It's maritime.
Islam.
Islam. Remember this right here? The Organic Act of 1871.
When the District of Columbia shot down the charters of George and Washington, and revoked the charters of all the cities and replaced them with all corporate charters. United States.
Smart.
I'm still trying to apply it and make it work out more. It
And
sounds
so,
nice.
and what did it create?
That created the corporate jurisdiction of the United States that we know today with the
What's
usurpers.
another name of the corporate jurisdiction?
Oh, District of Columbia.
District of Columbia, right? But what type of district is it? It's a what?
Oh, the railroad district?
Admiral.
I remember that.
I got it on the screen, y'all. Can y'all see it?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Can
I'm
y'all
not
see
on
the
the
screen?
I'm not on the Zoom call, sis, so I ain't gonna I can't
It
see.
says territorial area.
Territorial area. So again, it says the District of Columbia is that portion of the territory of the United States ceded by the state of Maryland for the permanent seat of government of the United States, including the River Potomac in its course through the district. So the River Potomac is under the territorial district of the Holy See. Through the water. That's why it's under admiralty law. That's why it's under maritime law. See, it's the permanent seat of the government of the United States, not the
That's
permanent
right.
seat of the government of the United States of America. We're talking about two separate entities.
Islam.
Islam.
Oh, you saying the United States is the church's business.
The church's business. That's right. It belongs to the church.
And in their business, they got
What
else?
everything.
They got.
It's like Burger King. You can have it your way.
And you can eat pork. So you got to think with Christianity coming from the Catholic point of view, human sacrifice is lawful. So I understand what y'all was going in on when I had first got on the call. Oh man, see, yeah, because if you really dealing with the church, that church with Constantine and them, and the rest of the Roman adaptations and morphosis of what they used to call the Roman gods and stuff, and how they applied it. Ooh. And like they got their own business.
Yeah, they got a lot of businesses.
That's
28
just
USC, 28 USC code subsection 1333 is what you would cite for the civil matter, right? When you are putting it, right? When you want to put it in here, when you want to do this right here. But before that, you need to go see these folks right here. As a matter of fact, what I would be doing is I would be doing this action right here on these folks.
I can't read the screen, sis. These folks.
Okay, brother. Yes, so I will be doing this this private administrative process.
Our 5 census.
On this entity that was created called the Holy See in the district of the Vatican City, right? I will be doing that to let them know that that chattel that was created is switching hands now. So the chattel is no longer going to be under that jurisdiction, right? Because the chattel is that all caps entity, right?
That's right.
We go back to see the Holy Koran of the Most Holy Temple of America. Go ahead, brother. Yo, you had an epiphany. Go ahead.
Islam. That's the state we are under. It's that simple.
It's that simple.
That's why. Wow. We're not even under the other states they say, but we are. But we're really under that state. That's the final state, is that name.
Islam. So
wow.
identify with that right there. So here in Atlanta, I can point out maybe Lodge 57 or
no, brother. No,
Islam. Excuse me.
No, it's called the Archdiocese. Okay.
Islam. I just mean to say that there are different lodges and factions, etc. But there's 2 particular areas where I know the Holy See to be here in Atlanta.
Islam, brother, right is called the Archdiocese. Islam. The Holy See has its districts and many areas. Its districts is called the Archdiocese. Not the lodge, not the temple, not the Masons, not the fraternities, not the sororities, not the courts, other than the U.S. District Court.
Islam, so if I may.
Archdiocese.
Right.
This is it right here, the Archdiocese. Then they have parishes. They have parishes by boundaries.
Islam. So their boundaries are districts with that. That's just for the Catholics, right?
Brother, this is for all property. This is for all property. The Holy See has a lot of property.
Enough for everyone.
So what I was trying to say is,
they even have an office called Life, Dignity, and Justice. St. James wrote, "What does it profit, my brothers, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? So also faith of itself, if it does not have works, is dead." Is dead.
in an effort to better support the efforts of our parishes and the communities this local church serves, the Archbishop has recognized Respect Life, disabilities, prison and jail, injustice and peace efforts under the office of life, dignity, and justice. Under the office of life, dignity, and justice. Respect Life Director. Director of Justice and Peace Ministries for the city of, this is the Archdiocese of Atlanta.
But that's up on the Roman Catholic, the Arch, how you pronounce that?
The Archdiocese.
Archdiocese.
So what other Catholic is the Holy See jurisdiction under? If it's not the Roman Catholic, what other Catholic is it under?
I can't answer that.
Okay, I'm just asking so that we can all get a clarification.
And the clarification on that is that Roman Catholic controls the land.
Roman Catholic has created its own. Nilbeg, can you mute out? Islam, Nilbeg, can you please mute out? Gratitude. It's Nilbeg. Islam. The Roman Catholic again.
Yeah, you're a dealer. You see what I'm saying?
Can you please somebody mute him out?
It's still got to. She's the hate.
Nilbeg
Can only.
Nil.
But it's still got.
Because I keep muting him, but it keeps unmuting.
Yeah.
I mean, he keeps unmuting it. Like, I'm gonna kick him out.
Oh my!
Caught up in that.
Nilbeg. I'm gonna kick him out my class.
Oh my! Oh my!
All right.
Islam, Grand Sheikhs.
Islam.
I had a question about and I don't want to go back too far because I see you going in the direction. The private administrative process, is that only to be used for like debt collectors, or can it be used like, for example, I'm having a situation with a bank.
Nilbeg. Okay, I'm going. Hold on. Let me kick him out.
You're dealing with your form.
Nilbeg, can you please? Let me move him. Put in the waiting room. All right, go ahead, brother. My bad.
Oh, it's no problem. So I'm having an issue with my bank. I actually had to close the account today, because they have just been like giving me the runaround with my debit card. I actually got my tax refund late, and when I got it, they said that they had an investigation on it, and so I couldn't even get my money for about 3 weeks. So basically, what I'm finding is I had an account maybe 3 years ago, and the account closed because I had a balance. I think it was like an overdraft or something like that, but it actually racked up to about maybe $200 or $300, which I never paid. And so the only reason that I opened another account was because my credit union, the checks were in that particular bank's, like they were printed on that, bank's letterhead or whatever. And so whenever I would go into the bank, they would say, well, they could cash it because it was, their bank's letterhead, but they, I guess it was a hassle because I didn't have an account. So I opened an account, and at first they wouldn't let me because I had that balance, but somehow I was able to open an account. But I've been going through all these problems. Like they sent me out like maybe, I don't know, 5 debit cards. And the last debit card, they said that they didn't have it in the system. So basically what I'm trying to say is they give me the runaround. I believe it's because I have a debt that, was never paid. And so it got so bad today, I had to go into the bank and I was going to get another debit card. And the manager was giving me the runaround. So I just took my money out. You know what I mean? But my thing is that something where I could utilize the private administrative process? Because I don't have a debt per se, but they have definitely, made things harder for me. Again, I'm like, and the manager's asking me, like, well, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, okay, I got an account here. I need a debit card so I can, get my money without always having to come into the bank. And when she couldn't help me, I was like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna close the account. But I wanted to know, is it only used for debts, or, can it be utilized like, in a different way that's not the actual debt? Like say you don't actually owe a debt, but have been wronged in some type of way, and maybe trying to get a default judgment.
Islam, indeed. You can use it for any type of civil matter. It's you having court on paper.
Okay.
So if you are the plaintiff and you're bringing up a civil matter, right? The civil matter, when you will bring it to the opposing party, which would be the defendant, you would basically do the same thing. Notice of, whatever. So the notice of whatever would be according to the wrong that they have done to either you or any entity that you're a part of, that you are bringing the civil case and that matter. All right. Again, the titles of the template are universal. The formation of the template is universal. You just make it fit your issue. You make it fit your matter. Islam.
The last question is, and I was gonna ask it. It was so tonight you said that instead of going to like a state civil court, we go to a federal district court.
Federal U.S. District Court, 28 U.S.C. section 1333.
Right. So
that's what allows you to bring the matter into federal U.S. District Court, because that is the court of original jurisdiction for civil suits in the United States.
Right. So the question that I have is, taking it from that state court to a higher court, will that make the process more complex? Because I've been to like small claims before, and it's pretty much like any other court. It's just, it's a small claims court. But if I'm trying to take it to the federal U.S. District Court, would that make, the process more complex? Is this something that you should kind of, not be a novice about? Or is it, study more? You see the question on that?
You're not getting a you're not going to you're not going in front of a judge to ask for a ruling.
Okay.
All right. So what you would be doing is you would be going to get a copy, basically. You're going to record your default judgment. You're not waiting for them to give you a default judgment. They can't give you a default judgment. You already have the default judgment.
Islam.
That's what you do. Your court, you have your court already on paper. So you don't have to go to a judge and ask a judge to give you a ruling on anything.
Islam.
You already did your ruling when you went through these templates and you sent these templates off.
Right. And then you had it notarized and all of that good stuff.
You can have it notarized, you can have it witnessed by 2 people. According to the Northwest Ordinance, it says all you need is 2 witnesses when you're dealing with property. So you can even do what's called self-authentication, where you authenticate it yourself. And then you have, you can even have witnesses on there, or you can choose not to have witnesses on there. But you always have one witness when you're sending it through the post office, which is the postmaster. That's one of your witnesses. Then you have yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where 2 or 3 are gathered, there justice will be in the midst. See, you got court on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can take that, say you have your, you record it, now you can take it and you send a copy of it to the company. Send a copy of it to the company. You can go and file a lien on the company for the amount. And you file the lien, you send a copy of what you recorded in the federal U.S. District Court, along with your lien that you filed. And you let the company know, I'll release the lien whenever you pay me. Until then, I put the lien amount in whatever other entity you want to put it in. You can put it in your trust, so now you give your trust credit. I'm gonna say it again, you can put it in your trust, so now you've given your trust credit. You can put it in your family estate, so now you've given your family estate credit. Islam. So now you can create a letter of credit because you have the credit from the lien from whatever bank.
Islam.
Now you can take that letter of credit to another banking institution and they will fund you because you got a letter of credit. But there's some other things you got to do before that. Islam. And some other things you got to do before that, before you can take that letter of credit to the bank. Islam. Yeah. So yeah, you don't ever have to go to the state court. Islam. And those who are doing the name change, if you're doing the name change, you want to definitely go and send those notices. You want to send those notices, whether it be an affidavit with your affirmation on it, you know, like your any illibay affidavit with your affirmation on it, to whatever local archdiocese. And see, they have this year is the year of Jubilee. This year is the year of Jubilee for the Roman Catholic Church. It's called the Platinum Jubilee of Elizabeth II. It's being celebrated in 2022 in the Commonwealth of Nations. In the Commonwealth of Nations. Now, you know, they have this thing and they got this thing when it's the year of Jubilee where you can put your they got these prayers that you could submit. You can submit these things called prayers, and these churches, specific churches, not Pacific, but specific churches within the Holy See districts, right? They're called basilicas. They're called basilicas. I'm gonna let you back in, Neil Bay. Just don't keep unmuting your phone, because I had to put you in the waiting room because you kept unmuting your phone talking. Islam. Basilicas. And in these basilicas, you can enter in, write your prayer. So, you know, your prayer can actually be in your affidavit with your affirmation, right? Tell them that you're taking it out of that jurisdiction and putting it in another jurisdiction. And moving forward, this is how they're supposed to notify you, right? They're supposed to notify you according to your L or your Bay, because you ain't under that jurisdiction of the church any longer. The Platinum Jubilee of Elizabeth II. Go ahead, Sister Shamir L.
Okay, so gratitude. So I don't know much about courts, court systems and things like this, but I just kind of want to understand how a template, a piece of paper can become credit, and then you're able to make up your own letter of credit that can be used as collateral. Like, that went over my head.
Okay, Islam. Letter of credit. Letter of credit. Letter of credit from a bank guaranteeing that a buyer's payment to a seller will be received on time and for correct amount. What is a letter of credit? A letter of credit or credit letter is a letter from a bank guaranteeing that buyer's payment to a seller will be received on time and for the correct amount. If
In the event that the buyer is unable to make a payment on the purchase, the bank will be required to cover the full remaining amount of the purchase. It may be offered as a facility. Due to the nature of international dealings, including factors such as distance, differing laws in each country, and difficulty in knowing each party personally. So again, you don't have to know them personally. The use of letters of credit has become a very important aspect of international trade. How a letter of credit works. Buyers of major purchases may need a letter of credit to assure that the payment will be made. A bank issues a letter of credit to guarantee the payment to the seller, essentially taking responsibility that the seller will be paid. A buyer must prove to the bank that they have enough assets or sufficient line of credit to pay before the bank will guarantee the payment to the seller. Because a letter of credit is typically a negotiable instrument, the issuing bank pays the beneficiary, or any bank nominated by the beneficiary. If a letter of credit is transferable, the beneficiary may assign another entity, such as a corporate partner or a third party, the right to draw. Because a letter of credit is typically a negotiable instrument, the issuing bank pays the beneficiary or any bank nominated or any bank nominated by the beneficiary. If a letter of credit is transferable, the beneficiary may assign another entity, such as a corporate parent or a third party, the right to draw. So we got several things right here, right? So up here, right, it's telling everybody that
That's right.
a letter of credit is a letter of banking guarantee, right? Which is a banker's guarantee. That's what the letter of credit is, right? Which the bank says, I guarantee that the beneficiary has given the bank, which is a corporate partner or third party, the right to draw these funds, right? So the beneficiary is given the bank or whatever other entity drawing rights. That's what the right to draw is, drawing rights. All right. Right here is where it gives you what a letter of credit actually is. A letter of credit typically is typically a negotiable instrument. That's what a letter of credit is. So a negotiable instrument is a signed document that promises a sum of payment to a specified person or the assignee. In other words, it is a formalized type of IOU, a transferable signed document that promises to pay the bearer a sum of money at a future date or on demand. I want everybody to pull out $1. Everybody pull out $1. I want you all to pull out $1.
I don't have one in my pocket.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry. I don't come to work in the building with money in my pocket.
Okay. All right.
I can pull up an image.
Okay. Islam. So on the front of the dollar bill, it says this note, it doesn't say this money. It doesn't say this cash. It doesn't say anything other than this note. This note, right? Note is a negotiable instrument. Note is a negotiable instrument. Everybody following me?
Islam.
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 I have also a U.S.PS postal money order. On the bottom of the postal money order, it says negotiable only in the U.S. and possessions. Negotiable. So this is also a negotiable instrument, right? So we have the negotiable instrument called a United States Postal Service money order. We got another negotiable instrument that they call a dollar bill, which is a note, right? You can have another negotiable instrument that's called a letter of credit. These are all negotiable instruments. And it is a signed document that promises a sum of payment to a specified person or the assignee. Right? So a negotiable instrument, you can either assign it to someone else or you can sign it to yourself, right? Like you can give the dollar bill, which says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And you can give the dollar bill to yourself. You never have to give it to anybody else. So you can give it to a person. We know what the definition of person is, right? We remember what the definition of a person is?
I believe it has to do with like a corporation.
Islam. Anyone remember where we can find the definition of a person according to their standards? Pursuant to their laws?
I see you bringing up Title 25. I was going to say in that wise trust thing I was reading.
Islam. So we want to go, because we're talking about their banking institution, right? So their banking institutions, we want to go to their definitions. So when we use Weiss and all those different things, we can create our, we can say that we are attaching those specific definitions to our trust, our states, so on and so forth. We can put together an entire word glossary of what such and such means. As a matter of fact, there is in the affidavit of notary presentment, in that template, it shows you a form of a glossary. So it doesn't give any thoughts of what each word or what each instrument actually is that was sent. You're given an actual definition of what you mean when you sent those notices or when you sent those documents. They can't just come up with their own, well, this means this. No, it means exactly what I said it meant in the notice. Right, so let's see, person. This is 28 U.S.C. definitions. And I've seen it, person. including a natural person, including an individual Indian, a corporation, a partnership, an unincorporated association, a trust, or an estate, or any other public or private entity, including a state or local government or Indian tribe. So that's what a person is. So you can assign your negotiable instrument to a specified person or the assignee, which is you, the assignee. In other words, it is a formalized type of IOU, a transferable signed document that promised to pay the bearer. So whoever the bearer is, right? So you got a money order and you want to assign to the bearer, which, say if you got a money order, you want to assign it to yourself, right? That's going to be the bearer. If you got a money order and you want to assign it to BG&E, which is Baltimore Gas and Electric, assign it to BG&E. Same thing with dollar, right? And you might be like, well, hold on, a dollar is paying for it. No, 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 no. A dollar is dollar is not paying for it. A dollar is not paying for it. A dollar, just like all the other currency that has been given to us to utilize, is called a fiat debt note. A fiat debt note or a fiat note, right? Because remember, it says this is a note. It is a fiat note. Islam. So it's paid to the bearer of a sum of money at a future date or on demand. Or on demand. So it's either the future or demand. The payee, who is the person receiving the payment, must be named or otherwise indicated on the instrument. Because they are transferable and assignable, some negotiable instruments may trade on a secondary market. I'm not going to get into that, but a letter of credit is a negotiable instrument. And a negotiable instrument, you would name each party, which would be the entity in the negotiable instrument. And that's how the bank would utilize such instrument. So again, if you have a claim against another entity and you have a default letter of judgment and you went and created a lien until that entity paid off the sum of what is due to you, you can take that lien and create a letter of credit. You can assign that letter of credit to another entity, to a third party, right? Or a corporate parent. So the third party or the corporate parent can definitely be the bank. It could be the credit union, right? And you're giving it a right to draw or drawing rights. Remember, drawing rights All right, draw. What is a draw? In law, a draw is a draft orders that a third-party drawee pay a specific amount to a payee who presents the instrument. A drawer of a draft orders that a third-party drawee pay a specific amount to a payee who presents the instrument. Islam. Brother Curry Ill, hold on. Sister Shamira, did I explain that to you?
Islam. I'm still kind of unclear on how the trust or the estate or the person is able to draw up their own letter of credit to give to the bank.
Well, you already have a negotiable instrument, which is your default judgment. Your default judgment is going to say, this entity owes me such and such, such and such. So if you already have your default judgment and they have not paid you, you have the right to go and file a lien on them. You can file a rightful lien on an entity if you have a default judgment. And because that company is still in business, doing business, it has that payment that it's supposed to pay you, that default judgment. So with that default judgment, with that lien, you can sure enough create a letter of credit. Again, it is a negotiable instrument. It's a negotiable instrument. A negotiable instrument is a signed document that promises a sum of payment to a specified person or the assignee. So if you have a lien, you're supposed to get that money. If they don't pay you, you don't lift the lien. But you still need the money. So you don't have the physical dollar. So you have the lien, which is a negotiable instrument. You can create a letter of credit off of the negotiable instrument that you have. Because your credit came from the entity that you have the default judgment on. So what you'll want to do is study this right here, Uniform Commercial Code. It's going to teach you all about negotiable instruments, liens, letters of credit, etc. You'll also want to study those same uniform commercial code laws in your state. Because every state has its own form of uniform commercial codes. And then once you understand how to utilize letters of credit and, you know, how to, what they call perfect a lien, or how to do, you know, put a lien on an entity and so on and so forth. You know, I wouldn't suggest that you do anything until you learn those things. Right? There is no money. Everything is a negotiable instrument. It could be in form of a note, like the dollar bill. It could be in the form of a money order, like the U.S. postal money order. It could be in the form of a letter of credit. It could be in form of a lien. These are all negotiable instruments. It could be a form of writing IOU, right? Because it is an IOU, a negotiable instrument, and a letter of credit is an IOU on a napkin. Because there is no money. It's all negotiable instruments. Every day, there are more and more negotiable instruments that's being traded, which means you and I can write a contract together and say, okay, well, you're going to perform this work for me, or you're going to do a thing and then you'll receive a thing. And the thing that you're going to receive from me after you do it for me or on the behalf of me, I'm going to give you a negotiable instrument. I can give you a negotiable instrument in a form of a letter of credit. I can give you a negotiable instrument in the form of a note. I can give you a negotiable instrument in the form of a money order. I can give you a negotiable instrument in the form of a coupon or a voucher. I can give you a form of, let me give you another example of what a negotiable instrument is. You know, and you know how a lot of times if we're not doing it now, but I'm pretty sure most of us have. You know how like sometimes we have entered into a raffle, right? We enter into a raffle because we want to win something, or you know, be given something, right? That's what a raffle is. So there's two things that happens with a raffle, right? You receive a receipt of your side of the bargain on the raffle ticket. And then the holder of the raffle keeps their receipt. So when the raffle is drawn, if your ticket is the winning ticket, it will line up because you have the receipt. A raffle ticket is a negotiable instrument. So now they have to pay the bearer the sum. So whatever the raffle that was supposed to be given, you being the bearer, because you have the receipt in hand, will be able to go and get your prize.